You're not invited, Maya. And before you ask, yes, everyone else is. Just not you. My sister Vanessa stood in my parents' living room in Portland, Oregon, holding what looked like a professionally printed guest list. Her French manicure caught the light as she crossed my name off with a red pen. Literally crossed it out, like I was a mistake that needed correcting. Why? The word came out smaller than I intended. I was 32 years old, standing in my childhood home, and I sounded like I was 12 again. Because, Vanessa said, her voice sweet as poisoned honey, this is my day, the most important day of my life, and I can't have you there making it about you like you always do. My mother, sitting on the couch with wedding magazines spread across her lap, nodded along. Honey, you have to understand. Vanessa's been planning this since she was a little girl. We need everything to be perfect. I wouldn't ruin anything, I said. I just want to be there. She's my sister. Are you, though? Vanessa's smile didn't reach her eyes. My sister? Because sisters support each other. Sisters don't steal attention. And you? You can't help yourself. My name is Maya, and I'm 32 years old. I work as a senior graphic designer at a mid-size marketing firm in Portland, making $72,000 a year, and I've been with my partner David for 6 years. We live in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in the Hawthorne district. Rent $850 a month, split between us. We're not married, which has always been a point of judgment in my family. But David and I are happy. Or we were, until this moment shattered something I didn't know could still break. My sister Vanessa is 28, works in luxury real estate selling multi-million-dollar homes to tech executives and wealthy retirees, and has been engaged to Preston for exactly 14 months. Preston comes from old money, the kind where your family name opens doors and your trust fund has a trust fund. His grandfather founded a successful timber company in the 1940s that became one of the largest suppliers in the Pacific Northwest. His father sits on multiple corporate boards, including 2 Fortune 500 companies. Preston himself works in private equity, managing investments for clients whose net worth I can't even conceptualize. The wedding they were planning wasn't just an event. It was a statement. A production. A carefully curated display of wealth and status that my parents had been funding and obsessing over for the past year. What have I ever done to steal attention from you? I asked, my voice shaking. Vanessa laughed. That high, crystalline sound she'd perfected in high school drama club, the one she used when she wanted to seem delighted but was actually being cruel. Oh, where do I start? My college graduation? You announced your new job. My engagement party? You and David showed up late and everyone was asking about your vacation photos. My bridal shower? You wore that dress that was practically white. I wore cream, I said quietly. It was cream-colored, not white. It looked white in the photos. My mother cut in. Several guests commented on it. Vanessa was very gracious about it, but we all noticed. I'd worn a cream-colored sundress to a garden bridal shower in July because it was 90 degrees outside, and the event was outdoors under a tent with no air conditioning. But apparently, that had been a calculated attack on Vanessa's spotlight. The dress had cost me $45 from Target. Vanessa's bridal shower outfit, I later learned, had been a custom $800 ensemble from a boutique in Northwest Portland. A pale pink dress with matching heels and a fascinator that looked ridiculous, but that everyone had complimented because that's what you did with Vanessa. So that's it? I'm not invited to your wedding because of a dress color? Because I had the audacity to have a life while you were getting engaged? Vanessa set down her list and looked at me with something that might have been pity if there was any warmth behind it. Maya, you've always been the one who needed to be noticed. The artistic one. The creative one. The one who does things differently. And that's fine for you. But this is my wedding. Mine and Preston's. And I won't have you there making some scene or doing something to pull focus. I've never made a scene at any family event. Never. Name one time. You exist loudly, Vanessa said simply. Like that explained everything. You take up space. You have opinions. You laugh too loud. You tell stories that go on too long. You wear colors that are too bright. You gesture when you talk. Everything becomes about you even when you're not trying. So for once, just once, I want something that's entirely mine. Without you in it, the words landed like physical blows. Each accusation, you exist loudly, you take up space, you laugh too loud, you wear colors that are too bright, settled into my chest like stones. These weren't crimes. These were just me being myself. And apparently that was unacceptable enough to warrant exclusion from one of the biggest events in our family's life. My father, who'd been silent in his armchair reading the newspaper, the same leather armchair he'd sat in every evening for 30 years, the one with the worn spot on the right arm where he always rested his coffee, finally spoke up. Vanessa has a point, Maya. You do tend to dominate conversations. Maybe it's best if you sit this one out. Let your sister have her moment. Sit this one out. As if my sister's wedding was a football game I could watch from the sidelines instead of one of the most significant events in our family's life. What about Marcus and Sophia? I asked, naming our 2 younger siblings. Marcus was 24, working as an accountant at a mid-size firm downtown, still living at home because he was saving for a house down payment. Sophia was 22, still in college studying psychology at Portland State, working part-time at a bookstore in the Pearl District. They're invited, right? Of course they're invited, my mother said, as if I'd asked something absurd. They're her siblings. So am I said, my voice barely above a whisper now. You're different, Vanessa said flatly. Marcus doesn't overshadow me. He knows his place. Sophia knows how to blend in, how to be supportive without making it about herself. You're too much. You always have been. I stood there in my parents' living room, the same room where we'd had family game nights when we were kids, where we'd opened Christmas presents, where I'd announced I'd gotten into college, where I'd celebrated my first big freelance client, where every significant moment of my childhood had happened. The same floral couch my mother had owned for 15 years. The same family photos on the mantle, though I noticed mine were smaller and fewer than Vanessa's. The same cream-colored walls. The same brass chandelier. Everything familiar and yet suddenly alien. Like I was seeing it all for the first time and realizing I'd never actually belonged here. I was surrounded by people who were supposed to love me. People who'd raised me. Who'd been there for every birthday and graduation and milestone. And I felt something inside me go very quiet and very cold. When's the wedding? I asked. My voice sounded strange, detached, like I was asking about the weather. June 15th, Vanessa said, her voice brightening now that we'd moved past the unpleasantness of my feelings. The Sentinel Hotel downtown. You know it, right? The one with the crystal ballroom? Black tie. 200 guests. Cocktail hour at 5, ceremony at 6, reception until midnight. We're having a live band, not a DJ. String quartet for the ceremony. Open bar, premium liquor only. 5-tier cake from that French bakery on 23rd. It's going to be absolutely perfect. How much are you spending on it? I asked. The question came out before I could stop it. I don't see how that's your business, Vanessa said, her smile freezing. I'm just curious, since apparently there's money for an elaborate wedding but never money to help me when I've needed it. That's different, my mother said quickly, defensively. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. We're investing in Vanessa's happiness, her future. And when I needed help with my student loans 2 years ago? I asked, turning to face my parents directly. When I was drowning in debt and asked for a loan of $15,000. When I was working 2 jobs and could barely make rent? You told me you couldn't help. You said money was tight. You said I needed to be more responsible with my finances. That was different, my father said, still not looking up from his newspaper, though I could tell he'd stopped actually reading it. You made choices that led to that debt. We're not going to enable poor financial decisions. You chose an expensive school. You chose a career that doesn't pay well. Those were your choices. But you'll enable a wedding that probably costs more than my annual salary? More than I'll make in 3 years? Vanessa stood up abruptly, her face flushed. This is exactly why you're not invited. You make everything about you. You can't just be happy for me. You have to point out what you're not getting. You have to make it seem like we're being unfair when all we're doing is celebrating me. I'm pointing out the truth, I said. The truth is that you've spent my entire life making me feel like I don't matter as much as you. And this, I gestured at the guest list still sitting on the coffee table with my name crossed off. This is just the most obvious example. You're being ridiculous, Vanessa said. Dramatic. This is why nobody wants you around. You turn everything into some kind of persecution complex. I turned and walked toward the door, my hands shaking, my vision blurring with tears. I refused to let them fall in front of them. My mother called after me. Maya, honey, don't be dramatic about this. We're not trying to hurt you. We're just being practical. Vanessa has her vision for her day, and we need to respect that. You'll understand someday when you get married. If you get married, the if hung in the air like a challenge. I didn't respond. I grabbed my purse from the hall table, the same table where we used to leave our house keys when we were teenagers, and walked out. Got in my car, a 2015 Honda Civic with 110,000 miles on it that I'd bought used 3 years ago. The passenger side mirror was held on with duct tape. The radio only worked on FM stations. The air conditioning had stopped working last summer, and I couldn't afford to fix it. This was my life. Scraping by, working hard, trying to build something meaningful, while my family spent 6 figures on a single day for my sister. The drive back to the apartment I shared with David took 20 minutes through familiar Portland streets. Past the coffee shop where David and I had our first date. Past the vintage bookstore where I'd spent hours browsing when I was in college. Past the park where our family used to have picnics when we were kids, back when things were simpler, back before Vanessa and I had become competitors in a race I didn't even know I was running. When I walked in, David took one look at my face and knew something was catastrophically wrong. He was sitting at our small kitchen table, his laptop open, working on a grant proposal for the nonprofit where he worked as a program director, trying to secure funding for their youth mentorship program. He'd been working on it for weeks, staying up late, stressed about meeting the deadline. But the moment he saw me, he closed the laptop and stood up. "What happened?" "She uninvited me," I said. The words coming out flat and strange, like I was reporting news I'd heard about someone else. "To her wedding. I'm the only sibling not invited because apparently I exist too loudly." David's expression went from confused to furious in about 3 seconds. His jaw clenched. His hands curled into fists. "What?" "My whole family agrees with her," I continued, my voice still that strange monotone. "They think I steal attention, that I make everything about me, that I'll ruin her perfect day just by being there. My father said I dominate conversations. My mother said Vanessa needs everything to be perfect. Vanessa said I exist loudly, that I take up too much space, that I laugh too loud and wear colors that are too bright. And they all agreed that it's better if I just don't come." "That's insane," David said, coming over to me, putting his hands on my shoulders. "You're her sister. You're one of the kindest, most thoughtful people I know. You don't steal attention. You just have a personality. You exist as a full human being instead of a background prop. Apparently that's the problem." I started crying then. Not the pretty, delicate crying that Vanessa had perfected for maximum sympathy and minimal mascara damage. The ugly, angry, years of hurt finally breaking through kind of crying. The kind where you can't breathe properly, and your whole body shakes and sounds come out of you that you didn't know you could make. David held me while I sobbed into his shoulder, and somewhere in the middle of that breakdown, something shifted inside me. Some foundation of familial loyalty that I'd been clinging to despite everything. Despite years of being second best, despite all the ways they'd made me feel small, finally cracked completely after I stopped crying. After David had held me for what felt like hours while I ugly cried into his favorite shirt and probably ruined it, I did something I'd never done before. I opened my laptop, created a new Google Doc, and titled it, Timeline, Vanessa's Wedding and Family Treatment. Then I started writing. Everything. Every detail I could remember from that conversation in my parents' living room. The exact words Vanessa had used. The way my mother nodded along. My father's refusal to even look up from his newspaper. The specific accusations. The date. The time. Who was present? March 12th, I typed. 2 p.m. parents' living room. Present. Vanessa, mother, father, me. Vanessa uninvites me from her wedding. Scheduled for June 15th. Says I exist too. Loudly. Says I take up space. Says I laugh too loud. Says I wear colors that are too bright. Says I'll make it about me just by being present. Says I've stolen attention at her college graduation by mentioning my new job, her engagement party by arriving late with David and having people ask about our vacation photos, her bridal shower by wearing a cream-colored dress that looked white in photos. Vanessa crosses my name off the guest list with a red pen in front of everyone. Mother agrees with the decision. Says Vanessa's been planning since she was a little girl. Says everything needs to be perfect. Father agrees with the decision. Says I dominate conversations. Says it's best if I sit this one out. Marcus invited. Sophia was invited. I am the only sibling excluded. Wedding details. June 15th. Sentinel Hotel. 200 guests. Black tie. Estimated cost $180,000 based on details mentioned. I kept writing, going back through years of memories. Every time Vanessa had been celebrated while I was overlooked. Every achievement of mine that had been minimized. Every moment when I'd been made to feel like I was too much. David watched me work, bringing me tea, sitting beside me in supportive silence. "What are you doing?" he finally asked. "Keeping receipts," I said. "If this goes badly, if they try to rewrite history, if they try to tell people I'm dramatic or vindictive or the problem, I want proof of exactly what was said and when. "That's smart," he said. "That's really smart." Over the next 3 days, I expanded that document. I went back through my entire relationship with my family and documented every major incident I could remember. November 15th, 5 years ago. I got promoted to senior designer, $12,000 raise. Announced at family dinner. Mother said, "That's nice, dear," and immediately changed subject to ask Vanessa about her real estate listings. Conversation spent 45 minutes on Vanessa's work, 2 minutes on mine. December 20th, 4 years ago. My design work featured in Portland Monthly Magazine 3-page spread. Called Mother to tell her. She said wonderful, and then talked for 30 minutes about Vanessa's new boyfriend Preston and his family's wealth. Never asked to see the magazine. March 3rd, 3 years ago. I asked parents for a loan of $15,000 to help with student debt, offered to pay back with interest, had a payment plan outlined. Father said money was tight, said I made poor financial decisions, said no. June 8th, 2 years ago, Vanessa announced engagement to Preston. Parents threw an engagement party, costing an estimated $3,000. Rented private room at expensive restaurant. 60 guests. Professional photographer. Videographer. I was not consulted about planning. I was told the date and told to attend. I included dates, specific quotes where I could remember them, who was present, what was spent on Vanessa versus what was spent on me or denied to me. I screenshot text messages going back years, conversations where I'd tried to share good news and been met with minimal response, conversations where Vanessa's news had been celebrated extensively. I saved emails, including one from 2 years ago where I'd formally asked my parents for a loan via email, outlining exactly why I needed it, exactly how I'd pay it back, including a spreadsheet of my budget and repayment schedule. My father's response had been 2 sentences. "Your mother and I have discussed this, and we don't feel comfortable lending you money at this time. You need to learn to manage your finances better." I saved that email in 3 different locations, backed everything up to cloud storage, to an external hard drive, to email drafts. I was building a case, piece by piece, in case I ever needed to prove I wasn't crazy, wasn't dramatic, wasn't the problem they'd always made me feel like I was. This documentation would become my shield, my proof, my evidence that the hurt was real and the patterns were undeniable. By Friday, I had an 8-page document. By Saturday, I had a plan. David and I went to the courthouse that Saturday morning. The building was old, built in the 1920s. All marble and wood paneling and the kind of institutional architecture that made everything feel weighty and official. We filled out paperwork for our marriage license. The clerk was a woman in her 50s who processed our forms with efficient disinterest, asking us to spell our names, checking our IDs, stamping documents. We paid $65. Then we waited in hard plastic chairs in a hallway that smelled like old carpet and burnt coffee for our turn with the judge who would perform the ceremony. The judge was a tired-looking man in his 60s who'd probably done this thousands of times. He performed a perfunctory ceremony that took 11 minutes. 2 strangers from the DMV next door, there to renew their driver's licenses, served as our witnesses. They signed our marriage certificate with pens attached to the counter with metal chains. The whole thing felt surreal, bureaucratic. Nothing like what people picture when they think about getting married. But when the judge said, "I now pronounce you married," and David kissed me there in that fluorescent-lit courthouse room, it felt more real than anything that would happen at Vanessa's $180,000 production. "Now," David said as we walked back to the car, marriage certificate in hand, we planned the party. That evening, I sat down and created the event that would change everything. I opened Facebook and created a private event page. I titled it simply, Maya and David's Island Ceremony, June 15th. Then I wrote the description, choosing every word carefully. After 6 beautiful years together, David and I have decided to celebrate our partnership with an intimate ceremony on San Juan Island. We got married at the courthouse last Saturday, surprise, but we want to celebrate with the people who matter most to us. We're keeping it small, meaningful, and entirely about love and community. If you're receiving this invitation, it means you matter to us. Really matter. No pressure, no expectations, no obligations. Just good food, beautiful views, and the joy of being together. Casual dress, no suits or fancy dresses required. Sunset ceremony at 6 p.m. Bonfire reception. Local salmon and wine. Bring yourselves and your love. Please RSVP by May 1st so we can plan food. We've arranged discounted rates at 3 local inns for anyone who'd like to make it a weekend getaway. The island is beautiful. There are hiking trails, whale watching, art galleries, great coffee shops. Come for the wedding, stay for the weekend if you can. Details and accommodation information in comments below. Space is limited to approximately 100 guests, so please respond promptly if you'd like to attend. Then I started adding people to the private group. This was the crucial part, the part that required strategic thinking. I went through Vanessa's guest list, which I'd seen on the coffee table, which I'd memorized before she crossed my name off. I added every single person on that list who I actually knew and cared about, who I had a genuine relationship with independent of Vanessa. My college friends who'd been invited because they'd grown up with both of us and our families had stayed connected over the years. Jessica, my freshman year roommate, who'd been there through my worst heartbreaks and late-night study sessions, who'd helped me move into my first apartment, who knew David almost as well as I did. Michael, who'd been in our friend group all 4 years, who I still met for coffee monthly, who sent me design clients when he could. Sarah, who'd been Vanessa's friend first but who'd always treated me like an equal, who'd told me privately once that she thought Vanessa was too competitive. My parents' friends who'd known me since I was a child. The Hendersons from down the street who'd babysat me and my siblings, who'd brought me cookies when I was studying for finals, who'd always asked about my life with genuine interest. Carol and Jim, who'd been at every one of my school concerts and art shows, who'd been more supportive of my creative pursuits than my own parents. The Martins, whose daughter had been in my class, who'd always been kind. Cousins I'd grown up with and actually stayed close to. My Aunt Rebecca, my mother's sister, who'd always been warmer to me than my own mother, who'd called me regularly over the years, who'd actually read that Portland Monthly article about my work and bought copies for her friends. Uncle Tom and Aunt Linda. My father's brother and his wife, who'd given me genuine career advice when I was starting out, who'd connected me with potential clients, who'd celebrated my achievements without comparing them to Vanessa's. My younger cousins, Tara and Madison, who were in their mid-20s now and who'd looked up to me growing up, who'd called me for advice about school and relationships and careers. Extended family who'd been invited to Vanessa's wedding out of obligation but who I actually had relationships with. Great Aunt Louise, who was 84 and who I visited regularly at her assisted living facility. My Uncle Richard and his family, who'd always been kind to me at family gatherings. Even some of Preston's relatives who I'd gotten to know over the past year at various engagement events. His Aunt Caroline, who'd told me at Vanessa's engagement party that she'd been a graphic designer in her youth and who'd talked to me for an hour about art and design and creativity while everyone else mingled. His cousin Robert, who worked in tech, and who'd had genuinely interesting conversations with David about nonprofit work and social impact. Preston's Uncle George and his wife, who'd been warm and welcoming at the bridal shower. I didn't invite everyone on Vanessa's list. I didn't need to. I just invited the people who actually mattered to me, who I had genuine relationships with, who might actually want to celebrate with us instead of attending a formal production where they'd be guests number 143 through 156, seated at table 18 in the back corner, barely knowing anyone around them, making polite conversation while eating overpriced, food and drinking expensive wine and watching 2 people they barely knew exchange vows they'd probably written themselves, with the help of a professional ceremony planner. I posted the invitation at 9 a.m. on Sunday morning, March 17th. I was sitting at our kitchen table with coffee, my hands shaking slightly as I hit the publish button. David sat beside me, his hand on my shoulder. The response started almost immediately. Within 15 minutes, my phone buzzed with the first notification. Tara had commented, "Oh my God, yes. Island wedding? Casual dress? This sounds perfect. I'm so there." By 9:30, the first formal RSVPs started coming in. By 10 a.m., I had 12 confirmed guests. By 11 a.m., my phone was exploding with notifications. Comment RSVPs? Message. The first private message came from my cousin Tara, who was 26, and worked as a social media manager for a tech startup. "Oh my God, are you serious? You're having your wedding the same day as Vanessa's? This is amazing. I've been dreading her wedding for months. That hotel is so formal and stuffy. Preston's family intimidates me. I don't even know half the people invited. This sounds like an actual good time. I'm absolutely coming to yours. Also, you're my hero right now." Then my college roommate Jessica wrote, "I've been dreading Vanessa's wedding since the invitation arrived. That hotel is so pretentious. The dress code is ridiculous. I was going to have to buy a formal gown I'd never wear again. And honestly, I'm not even that close to Vanessa anymore. We were friends, because you were roommates with me and she was your sister. But she's always been kind of cold to me. A beach ceremony sounds perfect. Plus, I haven't been to San Juan Island since we took that trip junior year, remember? When we stayed in that hostel and ate clam chowder every day? Count me in. Mike and I will make a weekend of it. Then came messages from family friends. Carol Henderson wrote, "Maya, honey, I had no idea you were getting married. Your mother mentioned Vanessa's wedding but never said anything about you and David tying the knot. I'd be honored to attend your celebration. Jim and I have always loved you like you were our own daughter. That island is beautiful. We'll book a room today. Also, between you and me, we were not looking forward to that formal hotel affair. This sounds much more like you, genuine and warm and focused on what matters." From my Aunt Rebecca. I saw your event invitation and I want you to know I'm coming to yours, not Vanessa's. I've been watching how your family treats you for years and I'm done staying silent about it. This is your day, your celebration, and I'll be there. From distant relatives. My Uncle Tom. Your dad mentioned Vanessa's wedding, but nobody told me you were getting married too. Congratulations. Linda and I would love to attend. We've always enjoyed spending time with you and David. Plus, if I'm being honest, I wasn't thrilled about spending a fortune on a hotel room and formal wear for Vanessa's wedding. This sounds much better. From people I'd worked with over the years, from David's coworkers and friends, from my boss Sharon who wrote, "This sounds lovely. May I bring my wife Diane? We'd love to celebrate with you. Also, I've met your sister at a few company events, and between you and me, she's always struck me as someone who needs to be the center of attention. Good for you for doing this your way." The responses were overwhelmingly positive and almost universally included some version of, "I was invited to Vanessa's wedding, but I'd much rather come to yours." By noon, I had 31 confirmed RSVPs. By 3 p.m., 47. By evening, 62. And every single one, I screenshot and save in a folder labeled Wedding RSVPs Evidence. I was documenting everything now. Every message of support. Every person who chose my wedding over Vanessa's. Every detail that proved this wasn't vindictive manipulation, but people making genuine choices about who they wanted to celebrate with. And the private group, which I'd carefully curated to include only invited guests, had somehow become not so private. Someone had screenshot the invitation. Probably Tara, who understood how social media worked and probably wanted to stir things up a little. Maybe Jessica, who'd never liked Vanessa much, and who had her own history of family drama she'd worked through in therapy. Someone had shared it with someone else, who shared it with someone else. By Monday morning, the entire extended family knew. My phone started ringing at 7 a.m. I ignored the first 3 calls. All from my mother. Then came the text messages, arriving rapid fire, each one more frantic than the last. "Call me immediately. What have you done? This is unacceptable. Maya, answer your phone right now. Maya Elizabeth, call me right now." At 8 a.m., unable to ignore it any longer, I called her back while David made me breakfast, scrambling eggs and making toast, trying to keep things normal while my family imploded via text message. The moment my mother answered, before I could even say hello, she was yelling, "What have you done?" She wasn't crying. She was furious, her voice shaking with rage, that particular pitch that meant she was barely containing herself. "What do you mean?" "You know exactly what I mean. A wedding? The same day as Vanessa's wedding? On an island? Posting it on social media like some kind of announcement? This is the most spiteful, manipulative thing you've ever done." "I'm not being spiteful," I said, keeping my voice calm even though my hands were shaking. David set a plate of eggs in front of me and squeezed my shoulder. I stayed on speakerphone so he could hear. "David and I have been together for 6 years. We're ready to celebrate our commitment. We went to the courthouse last Saturday and made it legal. And June 15th happens to work for our schedules." "Our schedules," my mother repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Maya, don't play dumb with me. You're doing this to hurt your sister, to ruin her wedding, to steal her thunder." "I'm doing this to celebrate my marriage," I said. "If that somehow affects Vanessa's wedding, that's unfortunate. But I'm not planning my life around her schedule, especially since she made it very clear I'm not welcome at her event." "You're ruining her wedding," my mother said, her voice rising to that pitch that meant she was about to completely lose control. "Do you know how much money we've put into this? Your father and I have spent over $180,000. Do you understand that? $180,000 we've been planning for a year. We've booked the Sentinel Hotel. We've hired the best vendors in Portland. We've invited 200 people. This is Vanessa's dream day. And now people are backing out to go to your little beach party instead. How many people? I asked, genuinely curious. There was a long pause. I took a bite of eggs, waited. Mom, how many people have canceled? 23, she finally said, and I could hear the devastation in her voice. 23 people have called to cancel in the last 18 hours. Family, friends, people we've known for decades. People who RSVP'd yes months ago. All suddenly saying they're going to your wedding instead. They're saying the island sounds nicer. They're saying they'd rather have a casual beach ceremony than a formal hotel event. They're choosing you over Vanessa. And do you know what that's doing to her? She's devastated. She's been crying all morning. Preston is trying to calm her down. His mother is asking questions. This is a disaster. I felt something warm spread through my chest. Not quite satisfaction, but something close to vindication. 23 people. 23 people who'd been invited to Vanessa's $180,000 production had chosen my modest beach ceremony instead. In less than 24 hours. I'm sorry that's affecting Vanessa's numbers, I said. Not sorry at all. But people are allowed to make their own choices. This isn't about choices, my mother snapped. This is about you being vindictive. This is about you sabotaging your sister's wedding because she hurt your feelings. She didn't hurt my feelings, I said, my voice getting harder. She uninvited me from a major family event because I exist too loudly. She told me I take up too much space. She crossed my name off her guest list with a red pen in front of everyone while you and Dad agreed with her. There's a difference between hurt feelings and being fundamentally rejected by your own family. You need to cancel, my mother said. And now there was desperation creeping into her anger. You need to move your wedding to a different weekend and stop this right now. Fix this. No. Vanessa didn't consider my feelings when she uninvited me. She didn't care how that would affect me. I don't need to consider hers when planning my own celebration. You're being childish and petty. I'm being honest. For the first time in my life, I'm not shrinking myself to make Vanessa comfortable. I'm not pretending to be smaller so she can feel bigger. And if that bothers you, that's your problem, not mine. My mother hung up on me. The silence after the call felt loud. David sat down across from me. You okay? Yeah, I said and meant it. I'm documenting all of this. I pulled out my laptop and added the conversation to my timeline. March 17th, 8 a.m. Mother calls. States 23 guests have canceled Vanessa's wedding to attend mine. Mother accuses me of being vindictive, spiteful, manipulative. Says parents have spent $180,000 on Vanessa's wedding. Demands I cancel. I refuse. She hangs up. 10 minutes later, my father called. I put him on speaker too. Maya, this needs to stop. What needs to stop, Dad? Your revenge plan. Your sabotage. It's inappropriate, and it's tearing this family apart. I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm getting married, planning a celebration, living my life. You're not getting married, he said, his voice heavy with disappointment. You're staging some kind of protest, some kind of statement against your sister. Actually, David and I did get married. We went to the courthouse last Saturday. Legally married. This ceremony is just the celebration with friends and family. So this isn't fake. This isn't performance. It's real. You what? I repeated the words slowly, clearly. David and I went to the courthouse on March 9th. We got married. Legally. Filed the paperwork. We're married. This island ceremony is just the party. The celebration. Why would you do that? Why would you get married without telling anyone? Without your family there? Because when I told you David and I were serious, you said we were wasting time. When I mentioned we were thinking about marriage, you said David needed to step up, or I should move on. When I tried to share my relationship with you, you compared it to Vanessa's, and found mine lacking. Every conversation about my relationship became a commentary on what I was doing wrong, so we did it our way. Just us, no judgment, no comparisons, no commentary. And now we're celebrating with people who actually care about us. There was a long silence. Then, Maya, you need to think about what you're doing. Really think. Vanessa is devastated. Preston's family is asking questions about why people are canceling. Your mother is beside herself. She's been crying all morning, and you're destroying any chance of having a relationship with your sister. Dad, I said, my voice steady. Vanessa destroyed our relationship when she uninvited me because I exist too loudly. When she told me I take up too much space just by being alive. When she crossed my name off her guest list while you all watched and agreed. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just living my life. And if my life interferes with her perfect production, maybe she should ask herself why her wedding is so fragile that it can't survive someone else being happy the same day. She's your sister, and she's the person who told me I'm too much just for existing. The person who said I ruin things by taking up space. The person who publicly excluded me while you supported her decision. So no, I'm not canceling my wedding. I'm not apologizing for refusing to disappear. But I am sorry that you're learning what it feels like when your daughter doesn't prioritize your comfort over her own happiness. He hung up. I added that conversation to my timeline too. By the end of Monday, I'd received dozens more calls and messages from Vanessa, leaving voicemails that ranged from crying to screaming. I didn't listen to most of them, but I saved every single one, downloading them from my voicemail and backing them up to multiple locations. From relatives I barely knew, telling me I was being selfish, dramatic, cruel. From family friends I hadn't spoken to in years, asking if this was really necessary. Couldn't we all just get along? But there were other calls too. More RSVPs. More people confirming they were coming to my wedding instead of Vanessa's. From my Aunt Rebecca again, calling to say she'd already booked a room on the island for the whole weekend and was planning to treat this like a vacation. That she was thrilled to have an excuse to visit San Juan Island again. That she'd been there 20 years ago and had loved it. From David's parents, who lived in Seattle and had been invited to both weddings but were thrilled to support us, who said they'd drive down to Anacortes and take the ferry over, that they'd make a family trip of it. From my boss Sharon, who called personally to say she'd already requested time off and booked accommodation, that she thought what I was doing took courage, that she'd watched me navigate family drama for years, and was proud of me for finally setting boundaries. By the end of that first Monday, I had 73 confirmed guests for my island ceremony. Vanessa's wedding had lost 31 people from her original count of 200, down to 169. Still a big wedding by most standards. Still more people than most couples invite. But the defections were noticeable, and public, and devastating to someone whose entire identity was built on being the most important person in every room. People were talking. In our extended family. In our parents' social circles. In the overlapping networks of friends and acquaintances who'd been invited to both events. The narrative my parents tried to spin was that I was jealous, spiteful, and manipulative. That I couldn't handle Vanessa's success. That I'd never forgiven her for being prettier, more popular, more accomplished. That I was sabotaging her wedding out of petty revenge because I was still single, still struggling, still living a mediocre life while she thrived. My mother called her friends, her sisters, distant cousins, and told them all the same story. Maya's always been jealous of Vanessa. Now she's trying to ruin Vanessa's wedding because she can't stand seeing her sister happy. It's vindictive and cruel. But the narrative wasn't sticking. Too many people knew the truth. Too many people had been there when Vanessa crossed my name off her guest list. Too many people had heard her say I existed too loudly. Too many people had watched our family dynamics for years and had drawn their own conclusions about who the problem really was. And when those people were forced to choose between a formal, expensive production at a downtown hotel and an intimate, joyful celebration on an island, more and more chose joy. They chose authenticity. They chose me. My cousin Tara didn't just RSVP to my wedding. She posted about it publicly on Instagram. A photo of San Juan Island from Google Images with the caption, "Can't wait for Maya and David's beach wedding next month." Finally, a wedding I'm actually excited about. No formal dress code, no fancy hotel, just good people and good vibes. This is what weddings should be. Island wedding, use beach ceremony, choosing joy, real love. She tagged my name. Tagged the event. Tagged San Juan Island Tourism. The post got 247 likes within 6 hours and 43 comments, most from mutual friends and family saying they were going too, that they'd chosen my wedding over Vanessa's, that they were excited for a casual celebration instead of a formal obligation. I screenshot the post in every comment and added them to my evidence folder. My college roommate Jessica posted a photo of a flowy sundress she'd bought, pale blue and casual and perfect for a beach. The caption read, "Beach wedding dress acquired," when the invitation is so much better than the formal event. Sorry, not sorry. Can't wait to celebrate Maya and David the right way, with bare feet in the sand and actual joy. Beach wedding, war, non-casual vibes, Maya and David, na island life. That post got shared 18 times within my social network and got 156 likes. Family friends who'd known me since childhood publicly commented on my Facebook event page, saying they couldn't wait to celebrate with David and me, sharing memories of watching me grow up, telling stories about how proud they were of the woman I'd become. Each post was a small declaration of allegiance. Each comment was a visible statement that they chose me. Each like was validation that what I was doing wasn't vindictive but right. And Vanessa watched it all happen in real time, because people were tagging locations, using hashtags, making it visible, posting photos of San Juan Island with excited captions, sharing accommodation information, talking about making it a weekend getaway. The whole thing was public, undeniable, spreading through our social networks like wildfire. 10 minutes later, my father called. I put him on speaker too. Maya, this needs to stop. What needs to stop, Dad? Your revenge plan. Your sabotage. It's inappropriate, and it's tearing this family apart. I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm getting married, planning a celebration, living my life. You're not getting married, he said, his voice heavy with disappointment. You're staging some kind of protest, some kind of statement against your sister. Actually, David and I did get married. We went to the courthouse last Saturday. Legally married. This ceremony is just the celebration with friends and family. So this isn't fake. This isn't performance. It's real. You what? I repeated the words slowly, clearly. David and I went to the courthouse on March 9th. We got married. Legally. Filed the paperwork. We're married. This island ceremony is just the party. The celebration. Why would you do that? Why would you get married without telling anyone? Without your family there? Because when I told you David and I were serious, you said we were wasting time. When I mentioned we were thinking about marriage, you said David needed to step up, or I should move on. When I tried to share my relationship with you, you compared it to Vanessa's, and found mine lacking. Every conversation about my relationship became a commentary on what I was doing wrong, so we did it our way. Just us, no judgment, no comparisons, no commentary. And now we're celebrating with people who actually care about us. There was a long silence. Then, Maya, you need to think about what you're doing. Really think. Vanessa is devastated. Preston's family is asking questions about why people are canceling. Your mother is beside herself. She's been crying all morning, and you're destroying any chance of having a relationship with your sister. Dad, I said, my voice steady. Vanessa destroyed our relationship when she uninvited me because I exist too loudly. When she told me I take up too much space just by being alive. When she crossed my name off her guest list while you all watched and agreed. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just living my life. And if my life interferes with her perfect production, maybe she should ask herself why her wedding is so fragile that it can't survive someone else being happy the same day. She's your sister, and she's the person who told me I'm too much just for existing. The person who said I ruin things by taking up space. The person who publicly excluded me while you supported her decision. So no, I'm not canceling my wedding. I'm not apologizing for refusing to disappear. But I am sorry that you're learning what it feels like when your daughter doesn't prioritize your comfort over her own happiness. He hung up. I added that conversation to my timeline too. By the end of Monday, I'd received dozens more calls and messages. From Vanessa, leaving voicemails that ranged from crying to screaming. I didn't listen to most of them, but I saved every single one, downloading them from my voicemail and backing them up to multiple locations. From relatives I barely knew, telling me I was being selfish, dramatic, cruel. From family friends I hadn't spoken to in years, asking if this was really necessary. Couldn't we all just get along? But there were other calls too. More RSVPs. More people confirming they were coming to my wedding instead of Vanessa's. From my Aunt Rebecca again, calling to say she'd already booked a room on the island for the whole weekend and was planning to treat this like a vacation. That she was thrilled to have an excuse to visit San Juan Island again. That she'd been there 20 years ago and had loved it. From David's parents, who lived in Seattle and had been invited to both weddings but were thrilled to support us, who said they'd drive down to Anacortes and take the ferry over, that they'd make a family trip of it. From my boss Sharon, who called personally to say she'd already requested time off and booked accommodation, that she thought what I was doing took courage, that she'd watched me navigate family drama for years, and was proud of me for finally setting boundaries. By the end of that first Monday, I had 73 confirmed guests for my island ceremony. Vanessa's wedding had lost 31 people from her original count of 200, down to 169. Still a big wedding by most standards. Still more people than most couples invite. But the defections were noticeable, and public, and devastating to someone whose entire identity was built on being the most important person in every room. People were talking. In our extended family. In our parents' social circles. in the overlapping networks of friends and acquaintances who'd been invited to both events. The narrative my parents tried to spin was that I was jealous, spiteful, and manipulative, that I couldn't handle Vanessa's success, that I'd never forgiven her for being prettier, more popular, more accomplished, that I was sabotaging her wedding out of petty revenge because I was still single, still struggling, still living a mediocre life while she thrived. My mother called her friends, her sisters, distant cousins, and told them all the same story. Maya's always been jealous of Vanessa. Now she's trying to ruin Vanessa's wedding because she can't stand seeing her sister happy. It's vindictive and cruel. But the narrative wasn't sticking. Too many people knew the truth. Too many people had been there when Vanessa crossed my name off her guest list. Too many people had heard her say I existed too loudly. Too many people had watched our family dynamics for years and had drawn their own conclusions about who the problem really was. And when those people were forced to choose between a formal, expensive production at a downtown hotel and an intimate, joyful celebration on an island, more and more chose joy. They chose authenticity. They chose me. My cousin Tara didn't just RSVP to my wedding. She posted about it publicly on Instagram. A photo of San Juan Island from Google Images with the caption, "Can't wait for Maya and David's beach wedding next month." Finally, a wedding I'm actually excited about. No formal dress code, no fancy hotel, just good people and good vibes. This is what weddings should be. Island wedding, use beach ceremony, choosing joy, real love. She tagged my name. Tagged the event. Tagged San Juan Island Tourism. The post got 247 likes within 6 hours and 43 comments, most from mutual friends and family saying they were going too, that they'd chosen my wedding over Vanessa's, that they were excited for a casual celebration instead of a formal obligation. I screenshot the post in every comment and added them to my evidence folder. My college roommate Jessica posted a photo of a flowy sundress she'd bought, pale blue and casual and perfect for a beach. The caption read, "Beach wedding dress acquired," when the invitation is so much better than the formal event. Sorry, not sorry. Can't wait to celebrate Maya and David the right way, with bare feet in the sand and actual joy. Beach wedding, war, non-casual vibes, Maya and David, not island life. That post got shared 18 times within my social network and got 156 likes. Family friends who'd known me since childhood publicly commented on my Facebook event page, saying they couldn't wait to celebrate with David and me, sharing memories of watching me grow up, telling stories about how proud they were of the woman I'd become. Each post was a small declaration of allegiance. Each comment was a visible statement that they chose me. Each like was validation that what I was doing wasn't vindictive but right. And Vanessa watched it all happen in real time, because people were tagging locations, using hashtags, making it visible, posting photos of San Juan Island with excited captions, sharing accommodation information, talking about making it a weekend getaway. The whole thing was public, undeniable, spreading through our social networks like wildfire. I went immediately to my laptop and documented the entire conversation. March 19th, 7 p.m. Vanessa arrives at the apartment unannounced. Begs me to cancel the wedding. Says Preston's family asking questions about cancellations. Says Preston's mother embarrassed. Says people talking about my wedding instead of hers. Says wedding vendors asking about reduced guest count. I refuse to cancel. Vanessa accuses me of jealousy, states I resent her for being prettier, more popular, more successful, for having better relationships. Accuses me of using her wedding for attention. Says when her wedding is perfect, mine will be forgotten. Threatens that I won't be welcomed back into the family. I was building a comprehensive record, and I knew somehow that I'd need it. Over the next few weeks leading up to June 15th, the chaos continued, but I stayed methodical, documenting everything while also planning the actual wedding celebration. Every voicemail from Vanessa got saved and backed up. Every angry text from my mother got a screenshot. Every supportive message from guests got preserved in organized folders. Every piece of evidence that showed who was saying what and when. I created detailed folders for everything. Threats from family, support. Messages, wedding planning documents, Vanessa's. Accusations, parents' manipulation attempts. Guest RSVPs and messages, social media posts, voicemails. Transcribed. By mid-May, 2 months before the wedding, I had over 100 pages of documentation. A complete timeline of every interaction, every threat, every moment of support or manipulation. And I felt more prepared, more protected than I'd ever felt in my life. Because whatever happened next, whatever my family tried to claim, I had proof. Undeniable, time-stamped, backed-up proof of exactly what had happened and who had said what. The truth was documented, and that made all the difference. My RSVP count kept growing throughout April and into May. By May 1st, our original RSVP deadline, I had 87 confirmed guests. We ended up extending the deadline by a week because people kept reaching out, asking if there was still space, saying they'd heard about it through mutual friends and would love to come. By May 8th, we had 91 confirmed guests, far more than I'd originally planned for when I'd estimated maybe 50 or 60 people would actually show up. We had to rent additional tables and chairs from a company on the island. We had to expand our catering order. David's co-worker's wife, who was handling the food, called me 3 times to adjust numbers. The salmon order went from 60 portions to 95. The salad from 8 large bowls to 12. The bread from 10 loaves to 15. Each adjustment cost more money, but we were still well under $5,000 total for everything, a fraction of what Vanessa's wedding was costing. Meanwhile, Vanessa's wedding continued to hemorrhage guests. By mid-April, I heard through Marcus that she was down to 158 confirmed guests from her original 200. By early May, down to 147. The losses had slowed, but the damage was done. Her seating chart, which she'd planned meticulously with Preston's mother's input, with specific tables for specific groups, had gaps. Empty seats. Tables that were supposed to have 10 people now had 7 or 8. The venue, designed for 200, would look noticeably empty at 147. I heard through my Aunt Rebecca, who maintained contact with my mother despite supporting me, that Vanessa had become obsessed with the guest count. That she called the hotel daily, asking if they could rearrange the tables to make the room look fuller. That she'd cried to Preston about how humiliating it would be to have empty seats. That Preston's mother had made multiple comments about how well-organized people don't have this many cancellations, implying that the cancellations were somehow Vanessa's fault. That she'd mismanaged her guest list or over-invited or failed to maintain relationships. The irony was that the cancellations weren't because people didn't like Vanessa, though some genuinely didn't. They were because when forced to choose between 2 weddings on the same day, people chose the one that felt more genuine, more welcoming, more about actual celebration than performance. They chose bare feet in sand over formal shoes on hotel carpet. They chose salmon and local wine over premium liquor and expensive catering. They chose authenticity over production, and each person who made that choice was voting with their presence, making a statement about what mattered to them. In mid-April, something unexpected happened that I documented carefully because I knew it would matter later. I received a direct message on Instagram from someone I didn't know, a woman named Rachel Morrison, 34, living in Denver according to her profile. "Hi Maya," she wrote. "I hope this doesn't seem weird, but I saw your story through a mutual friend who shared it in a wedding planning group I'm in. I just wanted to reach out, because I went through something eerily similar with my own sister 2 years ago. She uninvited me from her wedding because she thought I'd steal attention by being prettier than her bridesmaids. She literally said that to me. When I tried to set boundaries afterward, my whole family turned on me. They said I was being dramatic, that I was holding grudges, that I needed to be the bigger person. It destroyed me for months, but seeing your story, seeing how you handled it with so much grace and strength, it gave me permission to stop feeling guilty. You didn't do anything wrong. You just refused to be erased. Thank you for that. Seriously, you have no idea how many women needed to see someone stand up to this kind of family toxicity. I've shared your story with my therapist, and she said what you're doing is textbook healthy boundary setting. Anyway, I just wanted you to know you're not alone and you're not wrong." I read that message 3 times, feeling tears prick my eyes. Here was a complete stranger, someone I'd never met, telling me that my story had helped her heal from her own family trauma. I wrote back, "Thank you so much for reaching out. I'm so sorry you went through something similar. It's devastating when family makes you feel like you're too much just for existing, when they prioritize appearance over actual relationships. I'm glad my story helped you feel less alone. You deserved better too. Your sister's insecurity wasn't your fault, or your responsibility to manage." We messaged back and forth for over an hour. Rachel told me about her wedding, which she'd had 6 months after her sister's, a small ceremony with just 20 people who genuinely loved her. She told me about the therapy she'd done to work through the family estrangement. She told me about the relief of finally accepting that some relationships are toxic even when they're blood, By the end of our conversation, Rachel felt like a friend, someone who understood in a way my own family never had. I screenshot our entire conversation and saved it in a new folder labeled Stranger Validation Impact Stories. 2 weeks later, another message, this time from a woman named Claire Peterson, 29, living in Austin. I saw your wedding photos being shared in a wedding planning group I'm in on Facebook. Someone mentioned your story, about how your sister had uninvited you, and you'd planned your own wedding the same day. I'm in a similar situation right now. My sister is getting married next year, and she's been making passive-aggressive comments for months about how I need to tone down my personality at her wedding, how I shouldn't wear anything too attention-getting, how I should keep my stories brief if anyone asks me questions. After reading your story, after seeing how you handled it, I realized I don't have to accept that treatment. I'm setting boundaries now, before it gets worse. I told my sister yesterday that if she can't accept me as I am, I won't be attending her wedding. She was shocked. My mother called me crying, saying I was being dramatic. But I'm standing firm. Thank you for showing me that's possible, that choosing myself isn't selfish. Then another message, from someone named Bethany Chang, a wedding photographer in Seattle. I'm a wedding photographer, and I've worked over 300 weddings in the past decade. I've seen it all. The huge, expensive productions, the intimate backyard ceremonies, everything in between. I just wanted to reach out because your story has been circulating in wedding industry groups, and I wanted you to know, from a professional perspective, that the weddings that look the most expensive, that have the biggest budgets and the most elaborate details, are often the least joyful. The most memorable weddings I've shot have been the ones where people are genuinely present, genuinely celebrating, not performing for cameras. I showed your story to a bride I'm working with, who was stressing herself into illness, trying to create a perfect wedding, and it changed her perspective completely. She downsized her guest list, changed her venue to something more intimate, and she's so much happier now. Just wanted you to know your courage had ripple effects way beyond just your situation. What you did mattered to more people than you probably realize. These messages kept coming throughout April and May, one every few days, sometimes from women who'd been through similar family dynamics, sometimes from complete strangers who'd seen the story shared in wedding groups or through mutual connections, sometimes from people in the wedding industry who'd seen too many couples prioritize production over meaning. Each one went into my Stranger Validation Impact Stories folder because they mattered. They proved this wasn't just about me and Vanessa, wasn't just sibling rivalry or family drama. It was about a pattern that played out in families everywhere, where some people were made small so others could feel big, where authenticity was sacrificed for appearance, where real relationships were devalued in favor of performance, and people were hungry for examples of someone saying no, of someone choosing themselves, of someone refusing to play along. In late April, I received a comment on my wedding event page that I screenshot immediately because I knew it would be valuable evidence, from a woman whose profile identified her as Dr. Sarah Chen, a licensed family therapist in Seattle with credentials listed, PhD in clinical psychology, specializing in family systems and toxic relationship patterns. She wrote, "As a therapist who specializes in toxic family dynamics and has worked with hundreds of clients navigating family estrangement, I want to acknowledge how difficult it is to set boundaries with family members who've spent years normalizing dysfunction. What you did, Maya, choosing yourself and your peace over a relationship that required you to shrink, to minimize yourself, to accept being treated as less than. That's exactly what I help clients work toward in therapy. It often takes years of work for people to get to the point where they can do what you did. You're not selfish. You're not vindictive. You're healthy. You're modeling what healthy boundary setting looks like. And I hope anyone reading this who's in a similar situation knows that choosing yourself isn't betrayal. It's survival. It's recognizing that some relationships cost more than they're worth, and that's okay. You're allowed to choose peace." I screenshot that comment, printed it out, and added it to my physical evidence folder alongside digital backups. Because when my family eventually tried to reconcile on their terms, when they inevitably claimed I was being dramatic, or holding grudges, or mentally unstable, I'd have a licensed therapist's professional opinion that what I'd done was healthy, not vindictive. The weeks leading up to June 15th were intense, but I kept working, kept documenting, kept planning. David and I handled all the wedding logistics ourselves with help from friends. His best friend Marcus, who was in a band called Coastal Remedy, agreed to play acoustic guitar during the ceremony and at the bonfire reception. He'd learned 3 new songs specifically for us, spent hours practicing, refused to accept payment beyond his ferry ticket and accommodation. My photographer friend Allison, who normally charged $3,000 for wedding packages, full-day coverage with edited photos and an online gallery, offered to do ours for $500 plus expenses, because she believed in what we were doing. She said she was tired of shooting weddings that felt like corporate events, that she wanted to photograph something real. David's co-worker's wife, Michelle, who ran a small catering business called Island Fresh Catering, gave us a deal on food: wild-caught salmon from a local fishery, fresh salads with greens from island farms, artisan bread from a bakery in Friday Harbor, local fruit and cheese, Washington wine from small vineyards. Simple but beautiful, high quality but not pretentious. $200 for 91 people, about 13 per person. Vanessa's catering, I later learned, was $40,000 for 147 people, about $270 per person. My dress came from a boutique in Portland's Hawthorne district that specialized in casual bohemian styles. I found it on a sale rack, marked down from $400 to $200. Simple white flowing fabric that moved beautifully, with delicate lace detail on the shoulders. Perfect for a beach. The saleswoman, a woman in her 50s named Marie, asked what the occasion was. I told her the whole story, not planning to, but she was kind and I was stressed and it all came pouring out. She listened, nodded, and when I was done, she said, "Good for you." I uninvited my own mother from my wedding 30 years ago because she'd spent my whole life making me feel inadequate. Best decision I ever made. That dress looks beautiful on you. Wear it with confidence. David wore khakis and a linen button-down shirt we bought at J. Crew for $89, casual and comfortable, perfect for a beach ceremony. Our total wedding budget, documented carefully in a spreadsheet I kept. Venue rental for the beach property, $2,000 for the weekend. Food and catering, $2,200. My dress, $200. David's outfit, $89. Photographer, $500. Decorations including chairs, tables, string lights, flowers, $650. Beer and wine, $380. Bonfire supplies and s'mores ingredients, $75. Ferry cost for us, $86. Miscellaneous, including marriage license, thank you cards, printed programs, $220 total. $5,400 Vanessa's wedding budget. $180,000, the math spoke for itself. May turned into June. The weather forecast for June 15th looked perfect. Partly cloudy, high of 72 degrees, light wind, sunset at 8:43 p.m. We'd planned the ceremony for 6 p.m. to take advantage of golden hour, that magical time when the light is soft and warm and everything looks beautiful. The bonfire would start around 7:30 p.m. after the ceremony and initial mingling. Food would be served buffet style starting at 7:00 p.m. Casual, flexible, focused on people enjoying themselves rather than adhering to a rigid schedule. The final week before the wedding was surreal. My phone continued buzzing with messages from family members trying different tactics. My grandmother, my father's mother, called Tuesday that week. "Maya, sweetheart, I don't understand what's gotten into you. This behavior is unacceptable. Vanessa is your sister. Family is family. You don't abandon family over minor disagreements. We're all very disappointed in you. Your grandfather and I didn't raise your father to have children who behave this way." I let her talk. Didn't interrupt, and when she finished, I said simply, "Grandma, Vanessa uninvited me from her wedding first. I didn't abandon anyone. I'm just living my life. If that's disappointing to you, I'm sorry you feel that way." She hung up on me. I documented the call. My younger sister Sophia called Wednesday, crying. "Maya, please, Mom has been crying every day. Dad barely speaks at dinner. Vanessa is having panic attacks. You're tearing this family apart. Can't you just cancel your wedding? Can't you just be the bigger person here? You've always been so strong, so independent. Why can't you just let this go?" I felt sad hearing Sophia's voice. My little sister, who'd always looked up to me, who was caught in the middle of something she didn't fully understand. "Sophia," I said gently, "I love you. But I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm just refusing to be erased. And I'm not going to cancel my wedding to make Vanessa comfortable. She made a choice when she uninvited me. I made a choice to build my own celebration. Both of those things can be true." She was quiet for a long moment. "Then, I have to go. Vanessa's calling." She hung up. I documented that call too. My Uncle Richard, my father's brother, Sent a long email Wednesday night. Maya, I've known you since you were born. I've watched you grow up into a smart, capable woman. But what you're doing now is beneath you. It's petty and vindictive, and it's hurting people you claim to love. Vanessa made a mistake, yes. But you're making it worse. You're escalating a situation that could have been resolved with mature conversation. I'm asking you, as your uncle, to reconsider your actions. Cancel this beach wedding. Move it to a different date. Apologize to your sister. Make this right before it's too late. I read the email twice, then wrote back. Uncle Richard, with respect, Vanessa didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. She chose to exclude me from a major family event because I exist too loudly. She crossed my name off her guest list while my parents watched and agreed. That wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. And my decision to have my own wedding is equally valid. I'm not escalating anything. I'm just living my life, and I won't apologize for that. Thursday, 3 days before the wedding, my mother tried a different approach. She called around noon, her voice different than it had been in all our previous conversations. Softer, more vulnerable. Maya, honey, I know you're angry with us. I know we've hurt you. Your father and I have been talking, and we realize we could have handled things differently. With Vanessa's guest list, with how we've treated you over the years. We're not perfect parents. We've made mistakes. But please, can we please just sit down and talk? As a family? Before Saturday? Before this all goes too far? I wanted to believe her. Some part of me that was still that little girl wanting her mother's approval wanted to believe this was real. That she was finally seeing it. Finally understanding. But I'd learned to be careful. What would we talk about? I asked. About all of this. About how we can fix it. About how we can move forward as a family. Would you be willing to acknowledge specifically what you did wrong? I asked. Not just say you made mistakes, but specifically say what those mistakes were. Specifically take responsibility? There was a pause. I don't think that's productive. Dwelling on the past. So you want to talk about moving forward without ever acknowledging what happened? I'm trying to make peace, Maya. Peace without accountability isn't peace. It's rug sweeping. It's asking me to pretend nothing happened so everyone else can feel comfortable. Why do you have to make everything so difficult? My mother asked, her voice shifting back to frustration. I'm trying to make things right and you won't even meet me halfway. I'll meet you halfway when you meet me at accountability, I said. When you can specifically say what you did wrong, not just vague statements about mistakes and imperfection, then we can talk. She hung up. I documented the call. Friday arrived, 1 day before both weddings. David and I took the day off work. We drove up to Anacortes, stayed overnight at a hotel near the ferry terminal, spent the evening going over final details, calling vendors, confirming everything was ready. We were excited but nervous. This was real. This was happening. Tomorrow we'd celebrate our marriage with 91 people who'd chosen to be there, who'd chosen us, who'd chosen authenticity over obligation. That night, lying in the hotel bed unable to sleep, I checked my phone one last time. 3 missed calls from my mother, 2 from Vanessa, 1 long text from my father. Maya, tomorrow is not too late to make this right. You can still cancel your event. You can still choose family over pride. Your mother and I are begging you. Don't do this. Don't destroy your relationship with your sister over something so petty. We love you. We want you in our lives. But if you go through with this wedding tomorrow, if you deliberately sabotage Vanessa's day, we will have no choice but to cut you off. Think carefully about what you're choosing. I screenshot the text, saved it, and then typed my response. Dad, I'm not choosing pride over family. I'm choosing self-respect over dysfunction. I'm choosing authenticity over performance. I'm choosing myself after 32 years of being told I was too much. That's not petty. That's survival. I'll see you when you're ready to take real responsibility for how you've treated me. Until then, I'm moving forward with my life. I sent it, turned off my phone, and didn't turn it back on until Sunday morning. The morning of June 15th arrived with clear skies and perfect weather. Not a cloud anywhere. The sky that brilliant Pacific Northwest blue that only happens on perfect summer days. Temperature at 7 a.m. was already 65 degrees, predicted to reach 72 by afternoon. Light wind from the northwest. Exactly what we'd hoped for. The ferry ride to San Juan Island was peaceful. David and I stood on the deck, watching the water, watching the islands slip past, watching our old life recede with the mainland. We'd rented a small beachside cottage for the weekend, a charming weathered cedar structure with a deck overlooking the water. It slept 6, and we'd invited David's parents and Marcus to stay with us. Everyone else was scattered across 3 local inns we'd recommended: the Friday Harbor Inn, the Bird Rock Hotel, and a smaller bed and breakfast called Wildwood Manor. Our guests started arriving around 11 a.m., texting us as they got off the ferry, sending photos of the island, the town, the views. The energy was incredible. People were genuinely excited to be there, genuinely happy to celebrate with us. Tara sent a photo of herself on the ferry deck with the caption, "Island Wedding Day. This is already better than any hotel event could ever be." Jessica posted a video of the Friday Harbor waterfront to her Instagram story. "Wedding weekend on San Juan Island. This is how you do it." By noon, the island felt full of our people, our chosen family, all gathered in this one beautiful place to celebrate with us. The ceremony site looked perfect. The beach property owners had let us set up the day before, so everything was ready. Rows of white folding chairs arranged in a semicircle on the sand. 91 chairs for 91 guests, each one representing someone who'd chosen to be there. Simple white fabric draped between pieces of driftwood, creating a natural arch for us to stand under. Mason jars filled with wildflowers, purple and yellow and white, placed along the aisle. String lights hung between wooden posts, ready to be lit at sunset. It was simple, beautiful, and entirely us. At 5:30 p.m., guests started arriving at the beach. I watched from the cottage window, my heart full as I saw people I loved gathering, hugging each other, taking photos, laughing. David's parents arrived with Marcus. My Aunt Rebecca came with her husband. Tara and Madison, my younger cousins, arrived together, looking beautiful and happy. Jessica and her husband, my boss Sharon and her wife, the Hendersons. Aunt Caroline from Preston's family, who'd driven down from Seattle, Uncle Tom and Aunt Linda. Friends from work, from David's nonprofit, from our lives. Every single person there by choice, by desire, by genuine affection. I wore my $200 dress and felt more beautiful than I ever had, hair down and wavy from the salt air, barefoot, simple. David wore his khakis and linen shirt, also barefoot, looking at me like I was the only person in the world. At exactly 6:00 p.m., as the sun started its descent toward the horizon, we walked down to the beach together. No traditional entrance, no walking down an aisle while everyone watched. Just David and me, hand in hand, walking together to where my Aunt Rebecca waited under the driftwood arch. The ceremony was everything we wanted. Rebecca spoke for 15 minutes, and her words weren't about obligation or tradition or till death do us part. They were about chosen family, about the people who see you clearly and love you anyway, about building a life with intention and joy and radical honesty. "Maya and David," she said, looking at us with such warmth, "you've built a relationship based on mutual respect, genuine friendship, and deep love. You've shown us what it means to choose each other every day, through hard times and good times, through family drama and financial stress and all the challenges that come with actually living life together. And today, you're choosing to celebrate that with the people who matter most. Not with performance, not with production, but with honest commitment surrounded by honest love. That's what makes this sacred. Not the location, not the expense, not the formality. Just the truth of 2 people seeing each other completely and choosing each other anyway. When she pronounced us married, we kissed and 91 people cheered. Loud, unrestrained, joyful, genuine. The kind of cheering that happens when people are actually happy for you, not just fulfilling a social obligation. We served food at 7 p.m. on long tables set up on the grass near the beach. Michelle's catering was perfect. Grilled salmon that David's friend had helped cook on site. The fish fresh from a morning catch. Seasoned simply with lemon and dill and salt. The smell was incredible. Fresh salads with local greens, cherry tomatoes, cucumber, a light vinaigrette. Artisan bread from the Friday Harbor Baking Company, still warm, crusty on the outside and soft inside, served with butter and olive oil. Fruit platters with Washington strawberries and cherries and melon. Cheese boards with local cheddar and brie and goat cheese. Simple but perfect high-quality ingredients prepared with care. Beer from San Juan Island Brewing. Wine from Lopez Island Vineyards and Mary Cellars, small local wineries making excellent wine. $8 bottles that tasted better than Vanessa's $200 bottles because we were drinking them with people who wanted to be there, who were genuinely celebrating with us, not performing obligation. People ate standing up, sitting on the beach, gathering in small groups, mingling freely. No assigned seating, no formal structure, just people enjoying food and company and the beauty of the evening. At 7:45 p.m., as the sun touched the horizon, we lit the bonfire. A proper bonfire, built by David and his friends in a stone circle the property owners had designated as safe. The flames climbed high, crackling, warming the air as the temperature dropped slightly with the sunset. Marcus pulled out his guitar and started playing, and people gathered around the fire in a loose circle. Someone started singing along, badly but enthusiastically. Then someone else. Then a whole group. The songs weren't wedding songs. They were just songs people knew, folk songs and old pop songs and campfire classics. This land is your land. Brown-eyed girl. Wonderwall. People passed s'mores ingredients, roasting marshmallows, laughing when they caught fire, making gooey chocolate sandwiches with graham crackers. At one point, my boss Sharon stood up with her wine glass raised. "I just want to say something," she called out, and the crowd quieted. "Maya, I've worked with you for 5 years now. I've watched you navigate family drama with grace, build an incredible design portfolio, handle difficult clients with patience, and maintain your integrity even when it would have been easier to compromise. And David, I've gotten to know you through Maya and through the work your nonprofit does. You're both good people, really good people. And this," she gestured around the beach, the bonfire, the gathered friends, "this is exactly what a wedding should be. Not about impressing people or putting on a show, but about gathering the people you love and celebrating something real. So here's to Maya and David, to choosing authenticity, to building a life that matters, to love that doesn't need performance to be real." Everyone cheered and raised their glasses. Then my Aunt Rebecca stood, her face glowing in the firelight. "I want to say something too, if that's okay." We nodded. "I've known Maya since she was born. I've watched her grow up in a family that didn't always see her, didn't always value her the way she deserved. I've watched her try so hard to be enough, to be what they wanted, to earn the love she should have been given freely. And I've watched her finally choose herself. That takes courage. It takes strength. And Maya, I'm so proud of you. I'm proud that you refused to shrink. I'm proud that you built this celebration on your terms. I'm proud that you chose David and this life and these people over obligation and performance. This is who you've always been, and I'm glad you're finally letting yourself be it fully." I cried then, happy tears this time, and hugged my aunt while everyone clapped. Tara spoke next, my cousin, telling stories about growing up with me, about how I'd always been the brave one, the one who asked questions and challenged rules and refused to accept things just because adults said so. "Maya taught me it's okay to have opinions," she said. "She taught me it's okay to take up space. She taught me that being too much for some people just means you're enough for yourself. And that's a lesson I'll carry forever." More people spoke. Jessica telling stories from college. David's best friend talking about our relationship. Even the Hendersons, my parents' old neighbors, stood up to say they'd watched me grow up and were proud of the woman I'd become. As night fell completely and the stars came out, brilliant in the dark sky away from city lights, people danced, not to a DJ or a band, just to a portable speaker playing a Spotify playlist someone had created. Barefoot dancing in the sand. Casual, joyful, free. I danced with David, with my Aunt Rebecca, with Tara, with friends. Every moment felt real, felt present, felt like exactly what a celebration should be. At some point around 9:30 p.m., I stepped away from the party for a moment, walked down to the water's edge where the waves lapped gently at the sand. I stood there alone for a few minutes, listening to the laughter behind me, the music, the crackle of the fire. And I thought about my family, about Vanessa's wedding happening simultaneously 150 miles south in Portland. I wondered if she was happy, if the venue looked as empty as I'd heard it would, if Preston's mother was making more passive-aggressive comments, if my parents were anxious, if Sophia was uncomfortable, if Marcus was wishing he'd made a different choice. But mostly I didn't think about them at all, because I was here, in this moment, surrounded by people who'd chosen me, celebrating something real, and that was worth more than any family approval could ever be. David came and stood beside me, slipping his hand into mine. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "More than okay." "What are you thinking about?" "About how this is better. All of this moment, these people, this choice. It's better than anything I could have had if I'd stayed small." He kissed my temple. You were never small. You were just surrounded by people who needed you to be. We stood there for another moment, then walked back to our wedding, to our party, to our people. The celebration continued until after midnight. People slowly drifted away to their hotels and inns, tired and happy. By 1 a.m., only a small group remained, sitting around the dying fire, talking quietly. By 2 a.m., it was just David and me and his parents and Marcus, sitting on the beach, watching the embers glow. "Best wedding I've ever been to," Marcus said. "And I've been to a lot of weddings." "Best wedding I've thrown," I said, and we all laughed. We spent that night in the cottage, David's parents in one room, Marcus in another. David and me in the master bedroom with windows overlooking the water. I fell asleep to the sound of waves, David's arm around me, feeling more at peace than I'd felt in years. Sunday morning, I woke up to soft light filtering through the curtains and David still asleep beside me. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and turned it on for the first time since Friday night. It took a minute to connect, to load all the messages that had accumulated over the past day and a half. Then the notifications started flooding in. 73 missed calls, 157 text messages, 43 voicemails, dozens of social media notifications. I scrolled through them, my heart rate increasing with each one. From my mother. "Your sister spent her reception in tears. You ruined her wedding. I hope you're happy." From my father. "I don't know how you can live with yourself. What you've done is unforgivable." From Sophia. "Vanessa's wedding was so sad. Everyone kept talking about your wedding. People showed us photos from Instagram. It was so awkward." But there were other messages too. From Marcus, who'd been at Vanessa's wedding. "Dude, that was rough. The venue looked empty. Vanessa kept crying. Preston's mom was making comments all night. Everyone was tense. Mom and Dad looked miserable. I left early. Should have gone to yours." From guests at my wedding. "Thank you for the best night. That was magical. Best wedding I've ever attended." From people I barely knew. "I saw photos from your wedding on Instagram. It looked amazing. Your sister's wedding looked miserable. You made the right choice." And then, social media. Jessica had posted dozens of photos from our wedding. The sunset ceremony, the bonfire, people laughing and dancing. The caption, "This is what love looks like. No performance, just truth. Congratulations, Maya and David. Best night ever." The island wedding. Real love. Maya and David. That post had 487 likes and 92 comments. Tara had posted a series of photos. When you skip the stuffy hotel wedding for the beach ceremony and make absolutely the right choice. Thank you, Maya and David, for reminding us what celebrations should actually be about. Beach wedding. It's your best night ever. No regrets. That post had 312 likes. Sharon posted a photo of the bonfire with people gathered around. Privileged to celebrate these two. Proof that the best weddings are about people, not productions. Maya and David. Island celebration, authentic love. Even Preston's Aunt Caroline had posted, which surprised me. Attended a beautiful beach wedding on San Juan Island this weekend. Sometimes the most meaningful celebrations are the simplest ones. Island life, beach wedding. Every post was visible, public, tagged with our names and the island. And every post was evidence that our wedding had been joyful, genuine, well-attended, and celebrated. I got out of bed carefully, not wanting to wake David, and went to the cottage living room. Opened my laptop. Started documenting everything. I saved every social media post, every photo, every comment. I screenshot messages. I backed everything up. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have but couldn't resist. I searched for Vanessa's wedding hashtag. She'd created one months ago. Vanessa and Preston forever. The hashtag had photos but not many. Maybe 30 total. The most recent were from yesterday. I clicked through them, my heart sinking a little despite everything. The venue was beautiful, exactly as Vanessa had planned. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, elegant table settings. Vanessa looked stunning in her designer gown, the $12,000 dress that fit her perfectly. Preston looked handsome in his tuxedo. But the photos told a story Vanessa probably hadn't wanted told. Photos of the ceremony showed the ballroom maybe 70% full. You could see empty seats in the background. Photos of the reception showed gaps at tables. One photo showed my parents at their table, both looking tense and uncomfortable. Another showed Vanessa with mascara-stained cheeks, clearly crying, while Preston tried to comfort her. The comments on the photos were supportive but generic. Beautiful venue. Gorgeous dress. Congratulations. But nowhere near the enthusiasm and genuine joy in the comments on photos from my wedding. I saved screenshots of everything, then closed my laptop. I felt strange. Not quite guilty, not quite satisfied. Just a deep sense of completion, of something being over. I'd made my choice. They'd made theirs. And the results spoke for themselves. David found me on the couch staring at nothing. "Hey," he said softly. "You okay?" I showed him everything. The messages from my family. The social media posts from both weddings. The comparison. He looked through it all, then pulled me close. "You did the right thing." "I know. Do you regret it? Any of it?" "Not for a second," I said, and meant it. We spent the rest of Sunday on the island with lingering guests who'd stayed the weekend. Brunch at a local cafe where 5 tables of our wedding guests gathered, spilling stories and laughter. A walk along the beach where we ran into Tara and Jessica and David's parents. By the time we took the ferry back Monday morning, I felt settled in my decision, confident that I'd chosen correctly. The following weeks were intense. My parents made good on their threat to cut me off. I was removed from the family cell phone plan, which I'd been paying my portion of anyway. I was removed from the family Netflix account, which I barely used. I was told I was no longer welcome at family gatherings, which honestly felt more like relief than punishment. But something else happened that I hadn't expected. 3 weeks after the wedding, I was at a coffee shop in Portland, working on a design project, when a woman about my age approached me. "Excuse me, are you Maya, the one who had the island wedding?" I tensed, unsure if this was going to be confrontational. "Yes? I'm so sorry to bother you. My name is Emma. I'm friends with your cousin Tara, and she shared your story with me. I just wanted to say thank you. My own sister is getting married in 3 months, and she's been treating me terribly, making all these demands, telling me I need to change my hair, lose weight, not talk about certain topics at her wedding. I've been feeling guilty for even being hurt by it, but hearing your story gave me the courage to set boundaries. I told her yesterday that I'm not changing anything about myself, and if she can't accept me as I am, I won't be attending. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the most freeing. So thank you. You'll never know how much your courage helped me." We talked for 20 minutes. She told me about her family dynamics, and they were eerily similar to mine. I gave her my email, told her to reach out if she ever needed support. She left crying happy tears, thanking me again. 2 weeks after that, I got an email from a woman named Lisa in California who'd heard my story through a wedding planning forum. She was planning to uninvite her own toxic sister from her wedding after years of abuse and wanted advice on how to handle the fallout. I wrote back with detailed advice, shared my documentation strategy, told her to be prepared for backlash but to stand firm. A week later, she emailed again to say she'd done it, that her family was furious, but that she felt free for the first time in years. These stories kept coming. Every few weeks, someone new would reach out. Someone who'd been made to feel too much by their family. Someone who'd been excluded or minimized or told to shrink. Someone who'd seen my story and realized they didn't have to accept that treatment. Each story went into my impact folder, and each one reminded me that what I'd done mattered beyond just my own situation. 3 months after the wedding, my Aunt Rebecca called with an update. "Your mother and Vanessa had a massive fight. About blame, about whose fault everything is, about why the wedding was a disaster. Vanessa blames your mother for not stopping you, for not forcing you to cancel. Your mother blames Vanessa for uninviting you in the first place. It got extremely ugly. They're not speaking right now. Sophia is trying to mediate, but she's in over her head. Your father is just shutting down, barely talking to anyone. The family is fractured in a way I've never seen. How do you feel about that?" I asked, honestly, like it was inevitable. "This family has been dysfunctional for decades. You just finally stopped pretending it wasn't." 6 months after the wedding, I posted a simple anniversary-style photo on Instagram. David and me on our couch with Captain, our cat we'd adopted 2 months after the wedding, an orange tabby with an independent streak we both loved. Both of us in pajamas, him with bedhead, me with no makeup. Just a real moment on a lazy Sunday morning. The caption, 6 months married. Still choosing each other, still choosing peace, still grateful for everyone who celebrated with us when it mattered. The post got 400 likes and dozens of comments. But one comment stood out, from Marcus, my younger brother. "I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you sooner. I see it all clearly now. The favoritism, the manipulation, all of it. You were right about everything. I hope we can rebuild our relationship because I miss my sister." I screenshot that comment, saved it, then called Marcus. We talked for 2 hours. He told me about realizing slowly that our family dynamics had been toxic. That Vanessa had always been the golden child, and I'd always been expected to accommodate her. That our parents had enabled it. That he'd stayed neutral because it was easier. But neutral meant siding with the oppressor. He apologized genuinely, specifically, naming what he'd done wrong and taking responsibility, and slowly, carefully, we started rebuilding our relationship. 1 year after the wedding, David and I returned to San Juan Island for our anniversary. We stayed in the same cottage, walked the same beach, watched the sunset from the same spot where we'd gotten married, and I posted our anniversary photos. Us on the beach, sunset behind us, both smiling genuinely. The caption, 1 year married, best decision we ever made. Thank you to everyone who chose to celebrate with us. Thank you to everyone who showed us that family is about choice, not obligation. We're building a life we love with people who see us clearly and love us anyway. Here's to many more years of choosing joy over performance, authenticity over appearances, and each other over everything. The post got hundreds of likes and comments. But one comment made me pause. From Vanessa. Just 3 words. "I'm sorry, Maya." I stared at those words for a long time. Then I kept scrolling. 2 years after my wedding, I received a letter in the mail. Handwritten, thick envelope, my name and address in Vanessa's familiar script. I almost threw it away without opening it, but David said, "You should at least read it. You don't have to respond, but you should know what it says." So I opened it. The letter was 7 pages, front and back, in Vanessa's careful handwriting. "Maya, I know you probably hate me. I know you have every right to. I've spent the past 2 years in therapy, individual and with Preston until we separated, trying to figure out why my marriage failed, why my relationships keep failing, why I'm so deeply unhappy despite having everything I thought I wanted. And the truth I've been avoiding, the truth my therapist finally made me face is this. I was cruel to you. Not just about the wedding, about everything. Our whole lives. I made you smaller so I could feel bigger. I took up all the space and convinced myself I deserved it while you deserved less. I told myself you were too much because admitting that you were exactly enough, exactly right as you were, would mean I wasn't special. It would mean I'd have to face my own insecurity instead of projecting it onto you. You were right about me, about all of it. I was fragile. My self-worth was built entirely on being the priority, the favorite, the one everyone celebrated. And when your wedding succeeded while mine struggled, when people chose you over me, I couldn't handle it. My identity crumbled, because if I wasn't the golden child, if I wasn't the best, then who was I? I spent 2 years blaming you, telling everyone you'd sabotaged me, telling myself you were jealous and vindictive. But in therapy, when I finally admitted what I'd actually done, uninviting you, excluding you, making you feel like you were too much just for existing, I realized I was the problem. I've always been the problem. I don't expect forgiveness. I probably don't deserve it. But I needed you to tell you the truth. You were never too much. You were never the problem. Your laugh wasn't too loud. Your opinions weren't too strong. Your presence wasn't too big. You were just yourself. Fully and authentically yourself. And I couldn't handle that because I was so busy performing, so busy trying to be perfect, that authenticity looked like a threat. Preston left me a year ago. We tried therapy, but he said he couldn't build a life with someone who refused to take responsibility for their actions, who blamed everyone else for their problems. He was right. I've lost my job. The luxury real estate market isn't kind to people with my reputation. I've lost most of my friends. People got tired of me always needing to be the center, always needing validation, always making everything about me. I've moved from my penthouse to a 1-bedroom apartment in Beaverton. I'm working at a smaller real estate firm, making a fraction of what I used to make. I'm alone most of the time. And for the first time in my life, I'm being forced to face who I actually am instead of the image I've been projecting. It's brutal and painful and humbling, but it's also necessary. I'm learning that I built my entire identity on external validation, on being the pretty one, the successful one, the one everyone wanted. And when that started crumbling, when people stopped giving me that validation, I had nothing inside to stand on. I was hollow. I still am, in a lot of ways. But I'm trying to change. I'm trying to build something real instead of something performative. I'm trying to learn how to have relationships where I'm not the center, where other people matter as much as me. It's hard. I fail constantly, but I'm trying. I know it's too late to fix what I broke between us. I know I destroyed our relationship, probably permanently, but I needed you to know that you were never too much. You were always exactly right, and I'm sorry it took me losing everything to see that. I hope you're happy, Maya. I hope David is good to you. I hope you've built the life you deserved, the life I kept trying to take from you. I'm sorry for all of it, for 32 years of making you feel less than, for uninviting you, for trying to ruin your wedding, for blaming you for my failures. I'm sorry, Vanessa. I read the letter 3 times, showed it to David. We talked about it for hours. What do you want to do? He asked. I thought about that. Thought about all the years of hurt. Thought about the wedding, the fallout, the 2 years of silence. Thought about who I'd become without her constant presence. How much lighter I felt. How much more myself I was without trying to accommodate her ego. And I realized something important. I was grieving the family I'd always wanted but never had. The sister who would have celebrated me instead of competing with me. The parents who would have seen both daughters clearly and loved them equally. But underneath that grief was something stronger, more powerful, more permanent. Relief. The knowledge that I didn't have to keep hoping they'd change. That I could let go of the fantasy of what they could have been and accept the reality of what they were. And in accepting that reality, I could finally, fully, completely move on. I wrote a response. 2 pages, honest but firm. Vanessa, I received your letter. I appreciate the apology and the honesty. I believe you've grown, and I genuinely hope therapy helps you build healthier relationships going forward. But I don't want you in my life. Not out of spite, not out of anger, not to punish you. Simply because I'm happier without you. I've built a life over the past 2 years that doesn't include the pain you caused me. Doesn't include the constant comparison and competition. Doesn't include feeling like I'm too much just for being myself. And I'm not willing to risk that peace, even for reconciliation. An apology doesn't erase 32 years of being made to feel less than. It doesn't undo the damage or rebuild trust that was never really there. I appreciate that you've finally seen your patterns and taken responsibility. That matters. That's important. But it doesn't obligate me to let you back into my life. I hope you find happiness, Vanessa. Real happiness, not the performative kind. I hope you learn to take up space without making others smaller. I hope you build relationships based on genuine connection instead of hierarchy. But those relationships won't include me. We're done. Truly, permanently done. Not with hostility, but with acceptance that some relationships, even family ones, have run their course. I wish you well in your growth and your healing. But I'm doing my own healing, and that healing requires distance from you. Take care of yourself, Maya. I sent it and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no lingering hurt. Just a quiet sense of completion. Of a door closing firmly, but not with a slam. 3 years after the wedding, my parents reached out through Marcus again, asking for reconciliation. Not because they'd realized they were wrong, Marcus told me carefully, but because the family fracture was embarrassing. Because people kept asking why their eldest daughter wasn't at family events. Because Sophia was in therapy, working through her own issues with family dynamics, and had started asking them uncomfortable questions. Because my father's retirement was lonely when half his children weren't speaking to him. They wanted to move past it, Marcus said. They used those exact words. Move past it. Can we talk? My mother had asked Marcus to ask me. Just the 3 of us? Work this out? What would we work out? I asked Marcus. Do they understand what they did wrong? Or do they just want things to go back to how they were? Marcus sighed. I think they want things to go back to how they were. That's not reconciliation, I said. That's rug sweeping. But I'll meet with them, on my terms. Tell them I'll have coffee with them, somewhere public, neutral territory. But they need to come prepared to specifically acknowledge what they did. Not vague apologies, specific actions. I want to hear them say exactly what they did wrong. Marcus agreed to relay the message. The meeting was set for a Saturday afternoon at a coffee shop downtown, the Stumptown on Division, neutral ground where neither of us had history. I arrived early, bringing a large folder. Inside were printouts, screenshots, the timeline document I'd been maintaining for 3 years, all printed and organized. Physical evidence of everything that had happened, everything that had been said. My parents arrived looking older, more tired than I remembered. My father's hair had gone almost completely gray. My mother had new lines around her eyes. They looked diminished somehow, smaller than they used to be. David came with me but sat at a different table across the room, giving us space but staying close. Maya, my mother began after we'd sat down with our coffees. We've missed you. We want to work this out. Okay, I said. I want that too. But I need something first. I opened my folder. What? I need you to tell me exactly what you did wrong. Not vague statements like mistakes were made. Specific actions you took that hurt me. Silence. My father shifted uncomfortably. My mother looked at the folder like it might contain a bomb. We didn't always handle things perfectly. My father started. That's vague. I need specifics. I pulled out a printed document from my folder. Let's start with something concrete. March 12th, 3 years ago. What happened that day? Your sister's wedding planning, my mother said carefully. What specifically happened with me that day? I prompted. You couldn't attend, my mother said, her voice uncertain, like she was trying out different versions to see which one I'd accept. Why couldn't I attend? There was a long pause. Vanessa felt it would be better if you sat that one out, my father finally said. Better for who? For her day. And what did you say when she told me that? What did you say when she said I existed too loudly? That I took up too much space? That I laughed too loud? We supported her decision, my father said quietly. Why? Why did you support your daughter excluding your other daughter from a major family event? Silence. They couldn't answer. Or wouldn't. I pulled out another document. This is a list of every significant family event from the past 15 years. Vanessa's college graduation, Marcus's college graduation, Sophia's high school graduation, my college graduation, each one with what you spent on celebrations. Can you see the pattern? Maya, this isn't helpful, my mother said, her voice tight. I think it is, because the pattern matters. Vanessa's graduation, private room at a restaurant, $3,000, invited 40 people, professional photographer. Marcus's graduation, nice restaurant, $400, family only. Sophia's graduation, backyard barbecue, $200, family and a few friends. My graduation, Applebee's, 6 of us, 120, no photographer. Do you see the disparity? We always gave Vanessa more attention because she asked for it, my mother said. Because she needed more support. She was more social, more ambitious, and you were always so independent. So you gave her more because she demanded it, and you gave me less because I didn't complain. Is that correct? We didn't mean it that way, but that's what happened. Yes or no? Yes, my father said quietly. That's what happened. I pulled out more documents. Vanessa's wedding budget, $180,000. Your contribution to my student loans when I asked for help 2 years before her wedding, 0. You said money was tight, but you weren't being honest, were you? We felt her wedding was more important, my mother admitted. More important than your daughter's education? More important than me drowning in debt? More important than me working 2 jobs and barely making rent? It was a once-in-a-lifetime event. So was me asking my parents for help. But you chose her. You always chose her. And when she uninvited me, you chose her again. My mother's eyes filled with tears. We didn't mean to hurt you, Maya. We thought you'd understand. Understand what? That I mattered less? That my existence was too much? That I should just accept being excluded? That I should shrink so she could shine? But you did hurt me. You hurt me deeply. And you've never taken real responsibility for it. I pulled out the final document in my folder. This is an email I sent 3 years ago, asking what you'd done with the $750,000 trust fund my birth parents left for my care. Do you remember this email? My parents both paled. Maya, my father started. Do you remember it? Yes. And what was your response? We told you that money had been used for your care. All of it? Every penny? For 18 years of housing, food, clothes? Yes. I did the math, Dad. I'm good with numbers. $750,000 divided by 18 years is about $42,000 per year. For housing, food, clothes, school supplies, activities. Meanwhile, you gave Vanessa piano lessons at $200 a month, private school tuition at $15,000 a year, designer clothes, a car at 16, a full ride to college. You gave Marcus sports equipment, college support, help with his first apartment. You gave Sophia everything she asked for. And you gave me what? Hand-me-downs? A cot in Sophia's room until I was 14? Community college instead of university? So where did the $750,000 go? We used it for the family, my mother whispered. All of you benefited, but mostly Vanessa. Yes, mostly Vanessa. And you never told me about the money. Never acknowledged that my birth parents had left resources for my care that you spent on my siblings. Never felt guilty about taking money meant for me and using it to give Vanessa advantages I never had. My father looked at his hands. I pressed on. So before we talk about reconciliation, I need to hear you say it. Say what specifically? I want you to tell me. We favored Vanessa over Maya for 32 years. We agreed when Vanessa uninvited Maya because she existed too loudly. We spent $180,000 on Vanessa's wedding after refusing to help Maya with $15,000 in student debt. We used Maya's trust fund money to give Vanessa and her siblings advantages we didn't give Maya. We made Maya feel like she was too much just for having a personality. Say it, out loud. All of it. So I know you actually understand what you did. The silence stretched for a full 2 minutes. My mother looked at my father. My father looked at his coffee. Neither spoke. This is exactly what I expected, I said quietly. You want reconciliation without accountability. You want me back in your life, but you don't want to admit specifically what you did to push me out. So let me be clear. Until you can say, out loud, with specific details, exactly what you did wrong, we have nothing to talk about. I can't, my mother finally whispered. Can't what? Can't say it. Why not? Because, her voice broke. Because if I say it out loud, if I admit it specifically, I have to face that I was a bad mother, that I failed you, that I chose Vanessa over you again and again and justified it to myself. And I don't know if I can live with that. You were, I said gently, not trying to be cruel, but needing her to hear it. Not in every way, not always, but in this way, with me, in these specific choices, yes. You failed me. You were a bad mother to me. And until you can admit that, until you can say it clearly, and take full responsibility, we can't move forward. My father stood up abruptly. This is pointless. You're not interested in reconciliation. You just want to humiliate us. You just want to make us grovel. I'm interested in honest reconciliation, I corrected, staying calm. Not performance. Not pretending everything's fine. Not moving past it without ever moving through it. Real acknowledgement of real harm. And if you can't do that, if you'd rather protect your self-image than repair our relationship, then you're right. This is pointless. My mother stood too, gathering her purse. We came here in good faith. We came here to make peace. And you're throwing our mistakes in our faces. I'm asking you to acknowledge them, I said. To name them. To take responsibility. That's not throwing them in your face. That's basic accountability. But if you'd rather leave than face what you did, that's your choice. They left, walked out of the coffee shop without another word. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the folder of evidence I'd brought, all the documentation I'd thought might help them see. But they didn't want to see. They wanted absolution without confession. They wanted relationship without reckoning. David came over and sat down. You gave them every chance. I know, I said. And I have it all documented. Every word that was said, every opportunity they had, every refusal to take real responsibility. That matters. It does. Because I can't control whether they ever take accountability, but I can control having proof that I tried, that I gave them opportunities, that I wasn't unreasonable or vindictive. I was just honest, and they couldn't meet me there. We packed up the folder and left. And I added one final entry to my timeline. March 22nd, 3 years after wedding, met with parents at their request. Asked them to specifically acknowledge what they did wrong. They could not or would not. They walked out when pressed for real accountability. Relationship permanently closed. 5 years after the wedding, David and I bought a house. A real house, not an apartment. 3 bedrooms, a yard, in a quiet Portland neighborhood called Montavilla. Nothing fancy but solidly middle class. A place we could grow into. We'd saved for 3 years for the down payment. $40,000 that we'd earned and saved without any help from family. My parents had never offered to help. Not that I'd have accepted. We threw a housewarming party and invited our chosen family. Aunt Rebecca, Marcus and his wife. David's parents, our friends from work. People from our wedding who'd become close over the years. Tara and her partner, Jessica and her husband. The Hendersons who were getting older but still sharp and loving. My boss Sharon who'd become a friend. 40 people in our small house, celebrating with us. Bringing housewarming gifts. Offering to help with yard work. Giving advice about home ownership. It was loud and chaotic and full of love, and not one person from my immediate biological family was there except Marcus, and it was perfect. Looking back on everything, on that day in my parents' living room when Vanessa crossed my name off her guest list, I realized something important. She'd been right about one thing. I did take up space. I did exist loudly, I did have opinions and tell stories and laugh without restraint and wear colors that were bold and live my life fully instead of quietly. But those weren't crimes. Those weren't reasons to be excluded or minimized or told to shrink. They were just me being authentically, completely unapologetically myself. And the people who mattered, who actually cared about me, didn't need me to be smaller. They liked me exactly as I was, volume and all. My sister had wanted a perfect wedding without me in it, without the risk of me being too much, too loud, too present. She'd gotten exactly that. A formal, expensive production with 147 guests, a crystal ballroom, premium everything. A day that looked perfect in photos, but by all accounts it wasn't joyful. It had been tense and anxious, and marked by what was missing more than what was present. The gaps in the seating chart, the canceled guests, the comparisons to my wedding, the visible evidence that when people were given a choice, many had chosen elsewhere, and that wedding had been the beginning of the end for her. The marriage lasted less than 2 years. The job that depended on her image and connections evaporated. The friend group that had centered her drifted away. Everything she'd built on external validation collapsed when that validation stopped coming. I'd gotten something different. A wedding that cost $400 and felt like $1 million. 91 people who'd chosen to be there, who'd celebrated genuinely, who'd danced barefoot in sand and sung badly around a bonfire and told stories and laughed until their faces hurt. A beginning that was joyful and authentic and real. And 5 years later, a life built on the same principles. A marriage that was partnership, not performance. A home filled with a chosen family. A career that fulfilled me. Friendships that sustained me. A life that didn't require me to be smaller or quieter or less than I was. And every sunset, every dinner party, every ordinary moment was proof that I'd made the right choice. Not revenge, not vindictiveness. Just choosing myself. Finally, completely, without apology. The family that told me I was too much lost me, and the life I built without them, surrounded by people who celebrated my muchness instead of fearing it, proved I was exactly enough. That was the real ending to the story. Not dramatic destruction or public humiliation, though there'd been elements of both. Not total reconciliation or healing, because some relationships don't heal and that's okay. Just me, finally free, living loudly in a house with a yard and a partner who loved every bit of me. And when I looked back on that invitation I'd posted 3 years ago, Maya and David's Island ceremony, June 15th, I realized it had been more than a wedding invitation. It had been an invitation to myself, to finally exist without permission, to take up space without apology, to be exactly who I'd always been without shrinking for anyone's comfort. And I'd accepted that invitation, and built a life worthy of it, loud, authentic, imperfect, beautiful, and entirely mine.